One day, you'll stand behind this desk. Your name will be spoken in whispers. Entire cities will bend to your decisions. But to reach this room, you have to start where every great criminal empire has always started, at the very bottom. But first, this is where it actually begins. A street corner, worn clothes, zero connections, and zero power. What separated the man who reached that desk from everyone else on this corner was one decision, a willingness to do what others would not. The Mafia is not chaos. It is one of the most structured organizations ever built by human beings. Today we walk through every single rank, from the hungry kid running errands on the street, all the way to the Godfather himself. Let's get into it. Level 1. You are a street associate, not even a member of the family yet. You run errands. You carry packages. You stand on corners in all weather. You are being evaluated every single day, and nobody has told you that yet. The associate phase can last years. You prove yourself through reliability, silence, and availability at any hour for any task. The family watches everything. They test you without ever telling you the test has begun. Then the first real test comes. They ask you to do something you cannot undo. In that car, in that moment, you make the choice that either brings you inside the family or sends you home forever. The ceremony is short. The words are ancient. But when it ends, you are a made man, a full member of the family. You are now untouchable by outsiders. And you are bound to this life for as long as you live. Being made comes with a code, omerta, the code of silence. You do not speak to police. You do not betray your brothers. You do not touch civilians. Break any rule, and the punishment is absolute and immediate. As a soldier, your primary job is collections. Every business in your territory pays protection every week, not because they are threatened daily, but because they understand perfectly what happens when they stop. Sometimes collections require enforcement. You do not always need violence. The reputation of the family does its own work before you open your mouth. Standing still and saying nothing is often the most powerful thing you can do. Every soldier earns and passes a percentage up the chain. Your captain earns from you. His boss earns from him. The money flows upward always. Understanding the structure is the beginning of understanding real power. The promotion to capo changes everything. You now command your own crew of soldiers. Their earnings become your earnings. Their mistakes become your problems. Their loyalty is your most valuable possession. A good capo runs his crew like a business. Different soldiers handle different operations. Gambling, loans, protection, construction. The capo coordinates without being visible in any single transaction. Every capo worth his rank is always growing. New territory means new income. But expanding without permission from above is the fastest way to start a war. So every move must be measured and sanctioned. Problems always come to capo first. A soldier who stole. A deal that went wrong. A civilian who threatened to talk. The capo must resolve every problem before it reaches the boss's ears, because if it does reach him, that is itself a failure. Every month, the capo delivers his tribute upward. This payment communicates loyalty, productivity, and strength. The size of your envelope says more about your value to the family than any words ever could. The consigliere is the most unique rank in the entire Mafia. He commands no soldiers. He collects no money. His only function, and his enormous power, comes from advising the boss with complete honesty, even when that honesty is dangerous to deliver. The consigliere can tell the boss he is wrong. He can argue against a decision that everyone else is too afraid to question. This access makes him among the most powerful people in the organization, and one of the most dangerous to cross. When two captains have a conflict that threatens the family's stability, the consigliere steps in. He has no territory, no crew, no personal stake. His judgment is trusted precisely because he has nothing to gain from favoring either side. The consigliere sees threats before they arrive. A government investigation tightening. A trusted soldier whose loyalty is softening. A rival family moving too quietly. His job is to see the future clearly enough to protect the present. The underboss is the operational engine of the entire family. When the boss is unavailable, in prison laying low or untouchable, the underboss runs everything. Every capo answers to him. Every major problem lands on his desk first. The underboss manages capos the way a chief executive manages department heads. He must know every crew's performance, every territory's monthly earnings, every conflict brewing, before it explodes into something the boss hears about. Everyone in the family knows the underboss is next. This makes him enormously powerful and extremely vulnerable at the same time, because not everyone wants him to reach that chair, and some of those people are standing very close to him. At this level, managing law enforcement becomes a core function. Detectives on payroll, prosecutors who look elsewhere, judges with outstanding debts to the family. This network of protection costs a fortune and is worth every dollar. The boss. Every decision of real significance passes through this man. He does not micromanage. He sets direction, approves major operations, and resolves disputes that nobody below him could resolve. His word ends every argument in the room. A mafia boss runs what is essentially a large diversified corporation. Construction contracts, gambling operations, loan sharking, restaurant fronts, import businesses. The criminal and the legitimate are always layered on top of each other. The hardest part being the boss is the decisions that only you can make. Authorizing violence, removing a disloyal member, deciding whether to go to war with a rival family. These decisions cannot be undone, and they stay with you for the rest of your life. Power at this level is profoundly isolating. You cannot fully trust your underboss. He wants your chair. You cannot trust your consigliere. He advises everyone. You eat alone. You think alone. You carry the empire alone. The most dangerous enemy of a mafia boss is not a rival family. It is a federal indictment. The successful boss is never directly connected to any crime. He communicates through intermediaries, buffers himself with lawyers, and touches nothing with his own hands. At the highest level, mafia bosses meet with rival family leaders to divide territories, settle disputes, and prevent wars that would attract federal attention. These meetings are the real government of the underworld, and they decide outcomes that affect entire cities. The Godfather, a title earned across decades of loyalty, survival, discipline, and sacrifice. He is not merely the head of a crime family. He is a living institution. Politicians phone him. Judges consult him. Even rivals pay their respects. On certain days, the Godfather receives visitors. A widow who needs help. A union official seeking guidance. A rival seeking peace. He listens to all of them. He refuses few. His generosity is the foundation of his power, because a favor given is a debt owed. The Godfather operates in two worlds simultaneously. In public, he is a respected businessman, a philanthropist, a community pillar. In private, he controls an empire that answers to no law. The two identities protect each other perfectly. The Godfather's final mission is legacy. Who will lead when he is gone? Who can carry what took a lifetime to build? Choosing the right successor is perhaps the single most consequential decision of his entire life. Gambling is the mafia's oldest and most reliable income stream. Illegal card games, sports betting, numbers running. The house always wins, and the mafia is always the house, no matter whose name is on the door. Loan sharking generates more cash than almost any other mafia operation. People who cannot access banks come to the family. The interest rates are brutal. The collection methods are persuasive. And the profit margins are extraordinary. The most profitable legitimate front the mafia ever found was construction. Government contracts, union control, concrete suppliers, window companies. Hundreds of millions of dollars laundered through buildings that are completely real. Every dollar of criminal income must be cleaned before it can be used freely. Restaurants report inflated earnings. Laundromats process cash that never existed. The art of money laundering is as important to mafia as any physical operation. The greatest mafia leaders understood one thing that separates real power from temporary power. Fear is cheap and short-lived. Respect is expensive and permanent. A man who fears you will betray you the moment the fear fades. A man who respects you will be loyal long after. Every mafia member lives a double life. The loving father at the dinner table. The ruthless operator by night. Keeping both identities intact, without allowing one to destroy the other, requires a discipline that most human beings are simply not capable of maintaining. The longer you survive in the mafia, the more careful you become. History shows that most mafia members who were caught or killed were betrayed, not by enemies, but by the people they trusted most. Closeness and danger are the same thing at this level. The most effective mafia operators use violence sparingly, because the threat of violence is always more powerful than violence itself. Every unnecessary act of aggression attracts attention, creates enemies, and destabilizes everything you have built. The thing that has destroyed more mafia families than any law enforcement operation is the informant, the man on the inside who breaks the code of silence. One cooperating witness can unravel decades of careful construction in a single court testimony. When the federal government targets a mafia family, the investigation runs for years before a single arrest is made. Wiretaps, surveillance, undercover agents. By the time they move, they already know everything. The indictment is only the final chapter. The indictment brings everything into daylight. The operations, the orders, the names attached to crimes for the first time in a public record. This is the moment the empire begins to fracture under the weight of exposure. Every mafia organization that lasted was built on real loyalty, not threatened loyalty, but earned loyalty. When you find a person who will be completely honest and completely reliable, that relationship is worth more than any amount of money or territory. Emotional outbursts in the mafia get people imprisoned, killed, or overthrown. The leaders who lasted the longest responded to every situation, good or catastrophic, with the same measured calm. Anger is a luxury that powerful people simply cannot afford. The mafia's greatest strategists won through superior information, not brute force. Know your rival's debts. Know his loyalties. Know which of his men are unhappy. Knowledge of your enemy is always more valuable than weapons pointed at him. A mafia leader who shows weakness invites challenges from inside and aggression from outside. The posture of strength must be maintained even when everything is crumbling internally. Perception of power and actual power are completely inseparable at this level. The men who reached the top of the mafia paid for it in ways mythology never shows. Families fractured, children raised by an absent father, friends who vanished or died. Freedom exchanged for power. The price of this life is always paid in full. Always. The most honest lesson the mafia teaches is also the most uncomfortable. Power without purpose consumes itself. The men who built empires with no reason beyond the empire always ended the same way, alone, imprisoned, or destroyed by the very machine they created. Hollywood made the mafia look like non-stop violence. Reality is the opposite. The most successful mafia operations ran for decades with minimal visible violence, precisely because violence is terrible for business. The real mafia was far more corporate than cinematic. The mafia made extraordinary fortunes for the men at the very top, but street soldiers often lived surprisingly modest lives, carrying enormous legal risk for income that most accountants would not find impressive. Only a tiny percentage ever got truly rich. The mafia's mythology celebrates loyalty, but its history tells a different story. Most mafia bosses were ultimately betrayed, killed, or imprisoned with the direct help of someone they fully trusted. Loyalty in the mafia is always conditional on self-interest. The most famous mafia structure in history was New York's Five Families. At their peak in the mid-20th century, they controlled billions of dollars and operated with near total impunity across an entire nation. The 1950s and 60s were the golden age of organized crime in America. Federal law enforcement had no RICO statutes and no coordinated strategy. The families operated openly and with a confidence that would never return after the legal reforms that followed. The RICO Act was the beginning of the end for the traditional American mafia. For the first time, simply being a member of a criminal organization was itself a prosecutable crime. Entire families were dismantled in single trials that lasted years. The original mafia, Sicily's Cosa Nostra, still operates today and is considered by international law enforcement to be among the most sophisticated criminal organizations on Earth. Its roots stretch back more than 150 years. Italy's 'Ndrangheta, based in Calabria, is now considered by revenue to be the world's most powerful criminal organization, controlling an estimated 3% of Italy's entire GDP and operating across 6 continents. They make the traditional American mafia look small. Criminal organizations do not respect national borders. The Russian Bratva, The Japanese Yakuza, the Chinese triads, all operate with structures remarkably similar to Italian Mafia. Organized crime is not a cultural aberration. It is a universal human institution. Whatever you think of the Mafia morally, the organizational lessons it contains are studied in business schools worldwide. Loyalty, structure, network management, leadership under pressure. These skills belong to every ambitious person in any field. The hunger that drives a man from a street corner to the top of an empire is not evil. It is ambition. The tragedy of the Mafia is that extraordinary discipline, intelligence, and leadership was applied to a path that always ends in one of two ways: prison or a grave. Take that same hunger and aim it at something that builds rather than destroys. From the street corner to the Godfather's chair. Every rank earned through loyalty, discipline, strategy, and sacrifice that most people will never understand. The Mafia is one of the most compelling studies in human ambition, power, and consequence ever written. Thank you for watching POV Vault. And subscribe, because every 48 hours we unlock a new story that most people never get to see from the inside.